Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us, especially all you lovely live viewers this morning. Nice to see everybody. Let's get rocking and rolling here. Turn up those mic levels if we can. Bruce Burtwhistle, Mighty Megatron, Barney Styles, Quest Fanning, Levin 214, Kermode Bear, my lovely smoking hot, sweet Steffi Peterson joining us live today. I love to see it. Welcome, guys. Welcome. I got 44 of you on Rumble there so far. Could you do me that favor real quick if you haven't already? Click that like button. And of course, for those who are tuning in today for the very first time, make sure you follow us as well so you can come back and join us on the regs every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America Show streams live. All right. Well, I tell you, I got some bad news and some good news. Good news is that voters in Kansas City voted against a 40-year sales tax that would have bilked the taxpayers to pay for the cost of new stadiums downtown. God bless you. We're going to talk about that, and we've got a lot of other news, big news as well. Democrats have got a man problem, baby. Good, very good. Men, black men, white men, Latino men, they are leaving the Democratic Party in droves.
How dare you?
They've got a man problem, baby. You'll have to see. We're going to talk about that, and I've got some clips to play, of course. Bill Maher talking about people who were right during the pandemic and people who were wrong. The clip might surprise you. We're also going to talk a little bit about a story from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rejected hearing a case that would have potentially overturned a case that Amy Coney Barrett adjudicated before she was on the Supreme Court. And this was a lawsuit that came out of Purdue University that showed that there was a man who was accused of sexual assault on campus, and it was found that he was discriminated against unfairly, lost his ROTC, and that the assumption of guilt was placed upon him because he was a man, and the burden of proof was placed upon him rather than on the accuser. And I think that it's an interesting win for men's rights in this country. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I'm just in such a good mood lately, and I know it partially is because I get to have there's something magical about your wife being pregnant and getting to enjoy that. And like every day is kind of like so much fun when I get to go home after the show. And so like my personal life is just going really well. But professionally, the Wake Up America show and everything that we're doing here, our whole ecosystem of content and our merch shop and our channels here, everything's just growing and blossoming really nicely. You know, like we're not the biggest show in the world, right? And I think we're never going to be that Joe Rogan kind of show where we're going to get $20 million from Spotify, but we don't need that in order to be successful. What I'm seeing here on the show every day, what I'm seeing with our numbers, what I'm seeing on all the different channels in terms of the growth, I mean, it's a really healthy growth curve here. And it shows me that I think we have got staying power. The Wake Up America show is going strong, and we're going to be in it for the long haul. God bless America. And you, our listeners, thanks for all the support. L'economia hazlo por toso familia. Sorry, I got that Latinos for Trump song stuck in my head this morning. Everybody is just, I don't know, making me happy today. Mommy's over in the chat talking about how she's a new grandma. She says my son is practically glowing after holding his son for the first time. You love to see it. And Levin 214 dropping $10 in the tip jar like he's made of money says, oh, the irony of the right, suddenly liking J.K. Rowling again, when not 8 years ago they hated her due to her disdain of Trump. Lol. She's been a liberal her entire adult life. She's an actual feminist. Shut up. Let people enjoy things like the fact that, the fact that she's now one of us. I love to see it. And thank you for the donation, Levin214. You have unlocked 1/5 of today's bonus content. Another hugely successful program the Wake Up America show has been running. God bless America. Latinos por Donald Trump. So bonus content. How does it work? Some of you know, some of you don't. If we raise at least $50 in Rumble Rants or YouTube Super Chats or on purchases at apforlibertyshop.com. Then what happens? Well, you get to unlock today's bonus content. And this week's theme is the guns that won. So famous guns from American history that helped to build the American Republic. The last 2 days, we had the Colt Navy revolver, and we had on Monday the Kentucky rifle, which, of course, the Kentucky smoothbore, the Kentucky rifle, and the 1851 Navy revolver, 2 guns that won and helped to build the American Republic. What will today's gun be? I think that you'd like to know, and Levin 214 does. Just check it out at apforlibertyshop.com. Make a qualifying purchase, which is pretty much anything, and you guys will be able to unlock today's bonus content. I know you want to see it. It's going to be fun. There's so many exciting announcements and things are going on. I know you want to hear about the news, and I'll try to get to it. If I had a boss other than myself, he would be screaming at me in like my ear, telling me, "Austin, get to the news. Austin, shut up. Stop with all this housekeeping stuff. Get to the news." Okay, I'll get to the news in just a moment. Okay, briefly, just calm down, boss. Calm down. However, another new exciting product launch today at apforlibertyshop.com, our brand new stained glass collection created by my beautiful, lovely wife, Stephanie. She made something special. Por Trump, hazlo por tu familia, Latinos for stained glass. Ay, por vos, something. Vos soy a votar por Donald Trump. Anyways, it's a brand new product collection I think everybody will really enjoy. It's called the Historic Spirits Stained Glass Collection. Absolutely beautiful glasses, wine and whiskey glasses, as well as a glass cutting board that featuring our founding fathers. Look at this beautiful stained glass George Washington cutting board designed by the one and only Stephanie Peterson. Give it up for the lovely Steffi. If you're going to beat your meat, you should do it on this cutting board right there. We've got a deal going on this week for the announcement of the collection. If you buy at least 4 of the glasses, and you can get like the full collection of either like the whiskey glasses or the wine glasses if you'd like, but you can mix and match any 4. If you buy at least 4 of these items in the Historic Spirits collection this week only, you're going to get $10 off. So visit apforlibertyshop.com. Check out our beautiful stained glass collection of whiskey glasses and wine glasses featuring our founding fathers in their full glory. Stained glass window style design. There's that beautiful George Washington glass cutting board. If you go and you buy the glass cutting board today, right there, 40, that would actually unlock today's bonus content because Livin 214 already did it. Okay, let's do it. Ay, por dos. Sorry, let's
ay, por Dios. Yo voy a votar por Donald Trump.
por Donald Trump.
La buena vida por Trump. La economía por Trump. Hazlo por tu familia. Latinos por Donald Trump. Ay, por Dios. Yo voy a votar por Donald Trump.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
God bless it. No wonder they're all joining the Republican Party these days. Okay, why is Bill Maher trending? My friend Nikki Neely posted this clip of Bill Maher, which, Bill Maher has just, I think he's secretly starting to lean conservative. And it's probably because he's becoming an old fuddy-duddy. But here's the thing. Obviously, he has Donald Trump derangement syndrome, so he's not going to be voting Republican this fall, like so many other people are who are left liberals, like my brother and others. Liberals, I would say, not a leftist. My brother's not a leftist. But here's what Bill Maher had to say about the pandemic. This is what's going viral this morning on the internet.
I get it that we didn't know exactly what was happening at the beginning of COVID, and some mistakes were inevitable. But 4 years on, I'm tired of hearing, well, we didn't know. No, we didn't. But some people guessed better than others. And the people who got it wrong don't seem to want to acknowledge that now. Some people said closing schools for so long was pointless and would cause much worse collateral damage to kids, and they were right. Thank you.
Yeah. The audience did not want to clap for that. They did not want to clap for that. All right. Well, before we get to the big story today about how they're draining men, how the Democrats have a problem with black men, white men, yellow men, red men, all men. Let's talk a little bit about the news last night. This one really stuck out to me, and obviously I'm a Kansas City boy, so this is near and dear to my heart. But I really appreciated this story about the stadium tax, how it struck out. Kansas City Star this morning writes, thwarting plans for the KC Royals Stadium in the Crossroads. What now? Oh no. Billionaires aren't going to get their taxpayer dollars for 40 freaking years. Question one, that's what they called it. Jackson County voters rejected a 40-year sales tax. 40-year sales tax that would have helped pay for constructions of a Royals ballpark immediately south of the downtown freeway loop in the East Crossroads and a major renovation of Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs. Now, let me tell you something. I make no friends in Missouri politics for taking this position, okay? I'm in Jefferson City, which is the swamp for Missouri, okay? So it's the lone libertarian. It's me and Tony Lavasco, who is here somewhere in Jefferson City this morning about to do his business. There are very few of us here in Jefferson City who take this position. It doesn't matter who you are. You listen, I love the Kansas City Royals. I spent my childhood going to the games, okay? Kansas football is not my sport, much more of a baseball guy, but more power to you. God bless the Chiefs, and thank you for winning the Super Bowl. It's good for the economy. La economia, la Chiefs for por familia, Latinos for Kansas City Chiefs. So, listen, I love the teams. Glad they're here. But frankly, I think that my buddy Milsert Mike over on Twitter or X.com this morning was probably more right in that doesn't represent voters waking up and saying, oh, well, we realize that these taxes are stupid. We shouldn't be paying for billionaires to fund our stadiums so that they can get rich at our expense. But here's what Milsert Mike, my buddy, has. He's a cynical butt chunk, but he's probably right. Here's what I said. So I said, voters in Kansas City rejected the sales tax that would have been imposed on them to build new stadiums. I said, finally, people are wising up to this scam, right? Because the profits that they make on these franchises, those profits go into the billionaires' pockets. Why don't they just pay for their own stadiums? They're so rich. Pay for your own stadiums, damn it. Pay for your own stadiums. It's funny because a lot of the people who were opposed to this measure ended up being left liberals in Kansas City. And they were kind of like, oh, this is racist and stuff. And it's like, okay, whatever, whatever you want to believe, as long as you're voting against a tax. But of course, for me, this is a matter of principle and a matter of economics, right? And stupid people believe that this is somehow good for the economy because that you take from one group of people and that you give to another. I'm sorry, but if you're a hot dog vendor at a stadium, pay for your own goddamn hot dogs, okay? Pay for your own mustard, pay for your own French, pay for your own delicious chocolate malted frosty. That is your business expense. That is not the people who go, who should pay the tax? Let me explain to you who should pay the taxes for these a-hole billionaires. It's really simple. The people who buy the tickets and go to the games should pay the cost to build the stadium if the billionaire wants to pay it. It should come out of the billionaire's pocket or the people who buy the tickets. Let me tell you something. I have not been, and this is nothing to say bad against the Kansas City Chiefs. I have not been to a Kansas City Chiefs game since the 1990s. Okay? I don't go to the games. All right. I don't go to the games, and I should not be taxed to pay for a sport, a form of entertainment that I do not enjoy. Do you subsidize my movie tickets? Do you subsidize my video games, right? Do you subsidize the cost of my entertainments? No, you don't. Okay. So why am I subsidizing the cost of your form of entertainment? And honestly, it's one of the things that does make me sort of dislike professional sports to a large degree. And I know I got a lot of people out there who are sports lovers who will probably agree with me on the professional sports thing, and they like the college sports games and they like the high school games. And more power to you. And I appreciate that. Right for love. It's not not mercenaries fighting fighting a war over money. There are people who love the sports, who care about the games. Maybe they're striving to be professionals one day, so they're giving their hearts out. It's more about families, and these rivalries are much more organic and less produced. It's less American gladiators and more hometown heroes, which I just really appreciate and love and respect that dynamic. But at the end of the day, the taxpayers should not be on the hook to pay for these things. Here's what Milsert Mike had to say in a roundabout way. He says, honestly, I'm not giving Jackson County residents that much credit for waking up to these problems. He says, it failed because John Sherman has been a D word throughout the whole process. Then, when it came time for the Chiefs to bail the whole thing out, the president, Mark Donovan, started throwing out threats. Yeah, I had been reading about this. He says, I'm glad to see that it didn't pass, but it was more of a personality and presentation issue than people actually seeing the light on taxpayer money for the stadium. Come on, Mike.
No, God! No, God!
Why you got to be
please,
so
no,
cynical?
No! No!
Lupo's dad over at X.com says we have a similar problem in Indianapolis where the mayor Hoggy Boy, what the hell is a Hoggy Boy? Where the mayor Hoggy Boy keeps funneling money into downtown stadiums and casinos while schools and roads rot, is sad. What do you guys think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. One listener texted in this morning, and I've only seen a couple of news stories about it this morning. Sorry, there's so much news this morning. I haven't been able to stay on top of everything. And like I said, my news team actually all called out sick. So I have nobody here in the newsroom with me who is reading the news and feeding me stories and printing off things like I normally would. You guys know how I have this gigantic news team here, right? So I do appreciate when you send me these texts. But I haven't had time to go over all of them. Did you see Tim Cass last night? Somebody was asking, and somebody else tweeted at me this morning too. They said, talking about the 23,000 new registered dead voters from Missouri. What? Excuse me. Yeah, I heard about that from someone this morning when I woke up, that was being talked about last night. I missed that full story because I was reading other news stories to get you ready for today. Here's the thing about the Wake Up America show, okay? I know that some of you who watch us regularly might kind of be like, oh, like, yeah, you've got these regular guests and things. Today I have two special guests. One is a regular guest, right? That makes us special. The Wake Up America show features Judge Napolitano every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time. The judge. All rise. He's going to talk to us about this woman who got visited by the FBI over her social media posts. We're going to talk about that and a couple of other issues like the no-fly list and privacy and et cetera, et cetera. But the reason why the Wake Up America show is so special is because not only do we have like regular top-notch guests like that, but the network that I can call on to bring guests for you to talk about certain issues that are trending is unmatched and unparalleled in the world of podcasts, at least for like the size that we are and for what we do. So today, for example, at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, I am delighted to introduce to you for the very first time, I think it's his first time ever doing a live show, Oliver Gia, friend of mine who lives in Kyoto. He is going to be joining us today live from Kyoto, Japan, to talk about this story. Al Jazeera, which is this Arabic communist news network, posted a hit piece talking about how the United States has never apologized for using the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it's all this whole like leftist guilt complex that they're foisting onto Americans about using the bombs to end the war. Well, so it became this huge story in the last couple of days that, oh, well, that's interesting that the United States has never apologized for using the atomic bomb because we don't know that Japan has necessarily apologized for the rape of Nanking or for Unit 731, where they performed all these horrible experiments on prisoners, or the Comfort Women, et cetera, et cetera. But Oliver Gia, my friend from Kyoto, Japan, who is a researcher on North Korean issues, and of course the subject matter in Japanese issues, wants to set the record straight about that. We're talking about Oppenheimer, the film which came to Japan, which was sort of a controversy to the question of would Oppenheimer come to Japan? How would Japanese people respond to this movie about the creation of the atomic bomb? So today at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, I'm going to give you a just absolutely special experience where we're going to have a discussion with someone live from Kyoto, Japan, to talk about Oppenheimer going to Japan, the use of the atomic bomb. We're going to talk about how the Japanese people feel about the atomic bomb and about the war crimes that were committed by Hideki Tojo and Hirohito and the comfort women of World War II. And it's just going to be a fascinating discussion. Think about this when you're watching the Wake Up America show. Sometimes you might roll your eyes. Sometimes you might think, oh, it's just another talk show. We are not just another talk show. This is a very special Wake Up America show that brings you the absolute best, top-notch regular guests, as well as special featured guests live from Kyoto, Japan. Where else do you get stuff like this and this kind of news coverage? You don't get it anywhere else. You don't get this kind of news coverage anywhere else. So do us a favor, click that like button, and of course, follow us if it's your first time here and you enjoy that content. I know that David Lee, for example, is bringing up the earthquake in Taiwan. Like I said, the news is just absolutely busting out all over this morning, just like spring and the hailstorm that's just been crushing cars here in mid-Missouri. So there's a lot happening this morning. We're going to do our best to cover as much of it as we can. Big news stories and small news stories. We're going to try for it all. Just do us a favor if you wouldn't mind supporting the show and clicking like and subscribing to the channel if it's your first time here. New polling coming out today. Trump leading Biden in 6 of 7 swing states. Wall Street Journal poll finds. Hazlo por tu familia, Latinos por Donald Trump. I think it's because they've got a man problem. James Carville kind of like slurred his words. Did you know that his wife, Mary Madeline, endorsed me for president in 2016? No joke. Well, anyways, he was talking last night about young men leaving the Democratic Party in droves. Take a listen.
I've been very vocal about this. It's horrifying. Our numbers among younger voters, our vote, particularly younger blacks, younger Latinos, or whatever, but whatever younger, I don't like younger people of color, particularly males. We're not shedding them; they're leaving in the droves.
We're not shedding them; they're leaving in droves. Says James Carville. Well, I wonder why. But the DNC doesn't see any cause for alarm.
Polling to suggest that Trump is gaining their support. You had your fellow South Carolinian James Clyburn in January saying that Biden's message was not breaking through the MAGA wall, so to speak. Has Biden's message done anything to change that?
Well, I fundamentally believe, as in past elections, the African-American community, the black vote, will be there for Joe Biden in this election. When we look at what he has done and accomplished, this is not just words, but actually how he's delivered. He's made sure that we've had, as a community, a seat at the table. Just think about this. Personally, there has been no Democratic president who's ever appointed a black person to be the chair of the DNC.
There is some polling to suggest.
Sorry, guys. That's DNC Chair Jamie Harrison saying there's nothing Biden needs to do to earn support from black voters. Interesting. Well, not everybody is on board with that. Reading this news story, and let me just read to you some of the headlines that I pulled up this morning for research in this story here. And here's some headlines. So, why black, Latino, and Asian voters are leaving the Democratic Party. This is New York Post. Here's Politico. Democrats have a man problem. These experts have ideas for fixing it. I'll show you the pictures of the expert here in just a moment. You might have seen a little preview of them there for just a second. But Democrats can't afford to ignore the party's black male exodus. This was written in December. Michael Starr Hopkins over at The Hill. News Gallup poll here over at Gallup.com. Democrats lose ground with black and Hispanic adults. Now the Washington Post. Frustrated by Biden, this was in January, frustrated by Biden, black men ponder their options. Story about a gentleman named Brian Killian Bay says that he voted for President Biden in 2020, but this time Killian Bay says he and others in predominantly black neighborhood aren't so sure. He says, I'm torn between voting and not voting at all. A lot of us are. He says, I don't think Biden is in it, but I don't see what else is out there. He says he wanted Democrats to give me substance. You can't dangle carrots and assume we'll vote for you. just because we don't like the other platform. Give it up for Mr. Killian Bay. Now, don't worry, not everybody agrees with the chair of the DNC that the Democrats don't have to work for it to figure out what's going on and why they've got a man problem and how they're going to do it. Well, they've got their best experts on the case. If you're listening to the audio version of this show later, you could pretty much imagine the level of soy on the screen right now is off the charts. So this is from Politico.com. The Democrats have a man problem. These experts have ideas for fixing it. Here are the experts. Soy. Hazlo por tu familia, Latinos por Donald Trump. Anyway, so this lady up there with the horn-rimmed glasses, and like the typical angry feminist face, she is going to solve the Democrats' man problem. And this dude who's using the cowboy hat for a beard with his Apple headset in and the big, thick black glasses, which was the tell right there, the level of soys were off the charts. Here you have Black 3, and you have an old fat white guy who is scared of women, and his soy levels, of course, off the charts as well. Temperatures rising. Angry Latina with puffed up lips, Botox in the bottom lips. You can tell right there. Obviously, even though it's a black and white picture, you can tell when hair is dyed, right? Because of the sort of unnatural uniformity of the color between that and there, right? So this is a woman who, and with the cheekbones, she looks like she's had like that procedure where they remove fat from the cheekbones, right? Because you can see that like it's kind of like the fat is down there, but then the cheekbone is really high, so something's up. And then Latinos por Joe Biden with the really again the black horn rim glasses, dead giveaway. I'm voting Democrat. Temperatures rising. It's about half to the election. They're draining men. Hallelujah, they're draining men. Anyways, it's hilarious to me. I love what Scott Adams had to say about it. The creator of the Dilbert cartoon. When he posted that video of James Carville, Scott Adams had to say that Democrats are the party of women and the men who are afraid of women.
How dare you?
But if you think that wasn't spicy enough, he went on and it got spicier. Here comes some more adult conversation here for a moment. He says, notice that the only Democrat who can say this out loud, James Carville, is literally famous for having a Republican wife. He's safe. Temperatures rising. He says Democrat men can't voice that opinion and also have sex with women. It's a party of hostages. He says, follow the money is good at predicting, but follow the penis works even better. Temperatures rising and the election's so close. They're gonna get absolutely soaking wet. Oh, they're draining men. Hallelujah, they're draining men. Hallelujah. That is just some funny stuff. But why are they losing men? Well, it's obvious. They hate men. They despise men. They cannot stand. The Democrats are the party of hating men. If you hate men, you vote Democrat. If you're a man who can't be a real man, who can't be a masculine man, who can't lead, who can't win at any sport, who can't, even win at a video game tournament, you got third place at the Halo Championship in college, and you couldn't even get a girlfriend then you vote for the Democrats. Am I right? Absolutely soaking wet. Anyway, so this whole story I could talk about for hours, and I definitely am going to have a long conversation with you about it. But before I do want to play, speaking of raining men, our buddy Remy over at Reason Magazine, who writes those really funny songs, he did one that was a parody of Raining Men, but in regards to what's happening over at Boeing Airlines, literally raining men. And I'm going to play that for you. But before I do, just an FYI, we're about 30 minutes out until Judge Anna Napolitano here joins us on the Wake Up America show. And then once we hit the judge, I'm basically going to do those interviews back to back. So I'm not going to have a lot of time to plug the bonus content today. So if you do want to see the bonus content and not have it disappear forever and break our unbroken chain of unlocking the bonus content today, you're going to want to get your Rumble rants in before the judge. So in the next 30 minutes is going to be the optimal time, because what'll happen in that last hour, we're going to go back to back with the judge and my buddy Oliver Gia live from Kyoto, Japan. The next hour is just going to be absolutely packed with incredible discussions and conversations, and I'm not going to want to interrupt them with plugs for the bonus content. So if you do want to see today's bonus content, now is the opportunity to get those Rumble rants in, or head over to apforlibertyshop.com, and don't forget to check out our brand new Historic Spirits, brand new Founding Fathers stained glass collection. Steffi put in a lot of work on this beautiful whiskey, wine, and cutting board glass collection featuring our founding fathers, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, on these gorgeous stained glass designs that she's put. There's the cutting board you can see. And we do have a deal going on this week. So if you'd like to get like the full set of whiskey glasses or the full set of wine glasses, you can get $10 off if you buy at least 4 and you use the code Historic Spirits. So check them out over at apforlibertyshop.com. You can get the whole collection if you'd like. For every 4 items that you buy, use the code Historic Spirits at your checkout. You're going to get $10 off. So if you'd like to save $10 on this beautiful glass collection, that promo is going on this entire week. Absolutely beautiful, created by none other than my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wifey, Stephanie. Robbie Thurman threw in $20 in the chip jar. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that very much. So we're $30 towards our $50 goal if you'd like to see today's bonus content, The Guns That Won. Bitchmobile over on the show says, oh my God, my AP for Liberty coffee is out for delivery today. See, everybody's winning today. Absolutely soaking wet. You're gonna shot raining man. All right, let's hear from Remy over at Reason TV with his Boeing parody, It's Raining Men.
Plane forced to make an emergency landing yesterday.
The company is still requesting engineering exemptions.
Boeing's annual incentive plan changed from rewarding quality and safety to rewarding people hitting DEI and climate targets.
Welcome to Boeing, where we make earnings per share and also, I guess, planes. Sir, I still have a concern about the safety of our process for the new... Have you seen our new incentive pay? Our new plane is fuel efficient. It's the Prius of the skies. And once we hit all of those ESG targets, we've got enough to worry about, guys. Diluting our key priorities is problematic for safety. Don't you think there might one day be consequences to this? None that I can foresee. It's raining men. That's a dude, yeah, it's raining men. Amen. Our passengers, unlike our fuselage, will be screwed under this plan. It'll be fine. Things could not be going any worse. Have you seen our diversity score? Our executive team and door fastenings both have fewer nuts than before. If we reach our CO2 standards, I can buy that Panerai. Ooh, I really like that one. The only carbon plummeting is the body of that guy. Oh, don't tell me it's happening again. It's raining man. Another dude, yeah, it's raining man. Amen. Like Jim Morrison's overdose, this is really bad for the Doors, man. Somebody need a bailout? No. Yeah, a little bit. That plane is on fire. No. It lit itself for Palestine.
Oh my God, that is some funny stuff. Give it up for Remy of a Reason. I mean, absolute creative genius. That's his regulator, the parody of Sam Bankman-Fried.
Began to fall, losing more than 80% of its worth in the span of 72 hours.
Looks like we got a situation on our hands.
Regulators! Mount up.
It was a clear black night. He was sitting at home, looking at a JPEG on his trusty iPhone. It was a rare NFT of a hipster mouse. So he did what you do. He mortgaged his house and he put in a bid. He was getting the itch. He couldn't sit there while he saw those other people get rich. But then the market crashed. The value deflated. This shouldn't be allowed. They should regulate it. He saw a JPEG, it looked in demand. So he mortgaged his house, spent 400 grand. We need to pass new laws to prevent this. He wouldn't be so dumb if we regulate. Yeah. What?
If you're enjoying the show this morning, don't forget to click like. We appreciate everybody joining us live. It's a wonderful day. Beautiful day in mid-Missouri. We've had a little bit of a storm last night, and there was a storm across the country when voters took to the polls and did things like rejecting Kansas City's 40-year sales tax hike. God bless America. You love to see it. But everything just put me in a good mood today. I don't know what it is. If you guys are in a good mood, I see that people are out there getting their Founding Flavors coffee from the shop, getting delivered today. I can't wait to see it. Democrats are losing men like crazy.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
There's just so much to be happy for in the world. So much to look forward to, including this brief little commercial break so I can go to the bathroom, go pee for liberty. Don't leave. We'll be right back. There's more news. The judge is coming up at 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Oliver Gia live from Kyoto to talk about a hit piece on the United States over the use of a nuclear bomb. All that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Expansive time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit PetersonVoiceStudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Do me a favor, click that like button if you haven't done so already. Help us to support the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Wake Up America show today is brought to you by our sponsor, and that's AP4libertyshop.com. AP, the number 4, AP4libertyshop.com. You can get awesome shirts like this Don't Tread on Me Gadsden shirt I'm wearing today, our delicious line of Founding Flavors coffees. Stop supporting woke corporations that hate you. Every time that you buy a coffee from the Mermaid Lady coffee store, you're helping to support abortions. Why would you do that when you could get delicious coffee from me, AP, at apforlibertyshop.com. And also, don't forget, big announcement today, brand new line of beautiful Founding Fathers themed glasses, historic spirits, available at apforlibertyshop.com. This week only, you can get $10 off if you buy 4 of these beautiful collectible glasses. We're also including that awesome stained glass George Washington cutting board. So these items exclusive at apforlibertyshop.com. If you buy 4, put the coupon code Historic Spirits into the checkout, and you're going to get that $10 off. Pretty sick, huh? We get a lot of funny items over at apforlibertyshop.com, so go and check it out now, baby, now. God bless you. Bobby Thurman over there with the real issues saying, am I the only one who noticed how hot Betsy Ross is? Oh, baby, you're not. L'economia, hazlo por tu familia. The Founding Flavors coffee design for Betsy Ross did make her kind of hot. Yes, there we go. She's got like this beautiful, like shocking white hair with a giant coffee cup and like this dress with her little sexy ankles showing out at the bottom. It's just kind of like, oh, baby, yes. If you're into decaf, if you're into that thing, if you're into sexy women, that is, check those all out over at apforlibertyshop.com. And can you bless me money-wise?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise? Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
That's a little portu from here. Looks like somebody just bought the very first set. Thank you, Nancy. We appreciate you very much. We're going to have a plaque on our new studio when we launch a brand new libertarian network here soon, because we've got a potential new sponsor coming in this month that if everything works out for her after our 1-month trial period, then that means that we're going to start hiring like crazy and growing our documentary film unit and start doing investigative reporting soon, because the sponsor who's coming in is going to step in a big way, but they're only going to try it for a month. And if we don't do well with it for a month, they'll probably go away, and then we'll have to put away our schemes and plans of being able to grow like crazy and expand until a little bit later, until we can actually grow more organically. But I'm really hoping that this is going to work out. Oh my God. You're like, what are you talking about, Austin? You'll find out soon enough. It just seems like every single day of the Wake Up America show, we got something new or exciting going on. And thank you, by the way, Nancy, for purchasing those glasses. She bought a full collection, which means she got $10 off using that code Historic Spirits. That also means that thanks to her, that you have unlocked the bonus content. Yes. Latinos for Donald Trump. All right. So since we've only got 15 minutes until Judge Napolitano comes up, I want to make sure you guys get your chance to see your bonus content. This week's theme, the guns that won. Major American guns that helped to build the American Republic. Thank you all very much for unlocking the bonus content. You the real MVPs. We'll be back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Wake up and shoot. And somebody else was asking about the question of the new sponsor that's going to be starting here very soon. Yeah. So just a brief little bit of news house cleaning before we get to Judge Napolitano and Oliver Gia live from Kyoto, Japan. Stephanie and I are going to be taking a day off. So I think we're going to be doing Thursday the 11th, but we are going to be out Friday the 12th. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary of visiting Japan by going to Washington, D.C. and seeing the Cherry Blossom Festival there. It's really pretty. I used to live just outside of D.C. in Northern Virginia and would go to the Cherry Blossom Festival every year. So some years I actually would participate in doing karate demonstrations for the people there, which was a lot of fun. And I'm hoping this year I get to see my old sensei and that he'll be there doing a demonstration, and I'll be able to eat much sushi and drink much sake. Yes. Sake it to me, baby. It's going to be interesting to see Stephanie because she's going to be super pregnant at that. Well, I guess she's pretty pregnant right now, but next week, she just keeps getting bigger and bigger every day. So it's going to be interesting to see how she gets around walking around at the fair. We're going to have a lot of fun in D.C. We'll be gone for a day at least, maybe Thursday. I'm not entirely sure because we got to fly out of St. Louis. But we'll be gone Friday. We'll come back Sunday. So I believe that the new sponsor will start on the 15th. And we're still working on the final paperwork. But just so you know, if this sponsorship works out, they're going to do a 1-month trial. If it works out, this show, this network is going to start growing very rapidly. It's not going to be a deal where, and I don't want to get your hopes up because, quite frankly, it's this product and, it's a tough market and it might not work out. And if after a month it doesn't work out, I don't want you guys to be too disappointed or think that, that's going to derail our plans because at the moment I have a growth plan for this business and for the Wake Up America show and the Liberty Network that I'm building. I have a growth plan that doesn't just depend on some major, huge, financial backers coming in and making it happen through sponsorship deals, because right now I have like what I consider to be a very conservative but trending upwards growth path. But if this works out and if the sponsor decides to stick around for longer than a month, we may have a news team, right? We may be starting to bring on more talent here to grow this show. Because I'll tell you, Stephanie and I, we can't, especially with the baby coming, we're working our freaking asses off. She made those glasses, busted her ass to make that beautiful glass collection. So we've new products coming at the shop, fulfilling orders, customer service. We've got a part-timer right now. I'd love to bring him on into a more full-time role to handle the maintenance of the shop and the marketing. But at this point in time, we are basically completely maxed out in our productive capabilities. In order for us to grow, we really need to start adding to our team strategically. And if this sponsorship deal works out longer than a month, because I'm going to be conservative, obviously, not blow through all the cash we get the first month, but the second, third, fourth month, you are looking at seeing a whole hell of a lot more from AP and Steffi P for Liberty. Yeah, and I know you guys are excited, and I know this new sponsor sounds great, but the thing is that again, it's a tough business. So, and I can't rely on it because at the end of the day, it may work out, it may not work out. But if it does, if it works out, and if after a month we see results and show results for our new sponsor, then yeah, the sky's the limit for the Peterson family. Not only are we going to see Steffi with her own show, Hustling and Homemaking, but you guys know for months we've been working on another show that we might be able to expand. How awesome would it be to have our own Libertarian Daily Wire? Would you like to see not only more internet videos and live streams and podcasts, would you like to see feature-length documentaries? Because we're working on one right now. We could use the help. I'd love to bring in another producer on here and maybe even invest in putting together some shots of some scenes to make my very first feature-length documentary something more than just the interviews that I've already produced, along with the AI that I can afford to be able to create that. I'd love to be able to really step it up a notch. That's what my dream is. And my long-term goals, my dreams, is to bring the stories of Lysander Spooner and Friedrich Hayek and Ludwig von Mises to life in feature-length films. That would be where I want to go. But you got to be a rich man. All day long I'd bitty bitty bum, yivel devil divel, produce liberty content. See, it's going to come. It's going to come. It just might take longer, right? But some people like Democrats say things like, you know,
do not come. Do not come.
You got to be like Trump.
Come.
I say I'm going to come. Oh, yes. How dare you? How dare you? Well, the Wake Up America show is going to go to a very brief commercial break, but don't fret. The only reason that I do that is because I don't want you guys to see all of the technical behind the scenes stuff that's going on that helps me to essentially get the guest on the set. So I'm going to go get Judge Napolitano. We're going to talk to him about Supreme Court stuff. We're going to talk to him about a woman who got visited by the FBI over her social media posts. We're going to talk about liberty against tyranny right here on the Wake Up America show when we get back. Don't you having fun? Isn't this exciting to see? We'll be right back. WakeUpAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, you know, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamericashow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great. Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
There's just so much exciting stuff going on. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I have all these great conversations with our guests behind the scenes, so sometimes I take a little bit longer. Thank you for bearing with me. If you're enjoying the content today, make sure you click that like button and follow the show. The schedule is every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd like to have you be a regular guest. My lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, just dropped her brand new stained glass Historic Spirits Founding Fathers line. What is that? Well, it's beautiful whiskey and wine glasses adorned with our Founding Fathers' faces in a stained glass design. And we just sold our very first set this morning, so make sure you check that out at apforlibertyshop.com. And make sure you tell Stephanie thank you for those beautiful glass designs. You get $10 off if you buy at least 4 this week only. So check it out, apforlibertyshop.com. All right, well, freedom, 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 limited government, individualism. That's what I'm thinking about 24/7. But I bet there's somebody who thinks about it even more than me, who is constantly fighting for these rights that you and I enjoy today. The Founding Fathers fought their fight just like we fight ours today. If there was a Thomas Jefferson in the world today, who would it be? Well, I think I know. It would be my next guest, Judge Andrew Napolitano, joining us live. Good morning, TJ, or JN, Mr. Judge. All right.
That's the highest compliment you can pay me. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was giving a talk, this is 20 years ago, you were a baby, in Arlington, Virginia, and I didn't know who was in the audience. And 2/3 of the way through the talk, I stopped and I said, ladies and gentlemen, the Thomas Jefferson of our day is in this audience. It was Ron Paul. And that's how Ron and I met.
Judge, you and
so
I...
your listeners know that when a true North libertarian refers to another true North libertarian as Thomas Jefferson, that's the highest compliment that could be paid.
Judge, you and I have seen some incredible things together. We've been to the commanding heights when we've seen the dark times. We're fighting now through a very dark time, I believe, in American history, when our liberties hang by a thread. When someone can make a comment on social media and get a visit by federal officers. The Federal Bureau of Investigation visited a woman over her opinions that she posted in public, in my opinion, in order to chill her and others into silence. What is this story?
Well, this story actually happened a week ago in Oklahoma. A local activist posted some social media posts which were incendiary, and her view that the Palestinian people were being slaughtered, and it's about time we stood up for international law and human decency. And the next thing you know, there was a knock on her door, and it was 3 FBI agents, 1 female and 2 male. This lady didn't back down. She asked them for a warrant. They didn't have it. She said, what do you care about my freedom of speech? They were actually quite pleasant and mild-mannered, but they were agents of the federal government. They were armed. They were there to evaluate the content of her speech and to ask her to justify her speech. And she said, I don't want to talk to you, talk to my lawyer. My advice to her, call the local police. Tell them there are 3 people on your front porch with guns that are harassing you. You'll get an armada that'll show up in a couple of minutes.
See, that's more Sam Adams than Thomas Jefferson in there.
You're right. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Right. Jefferson would have been a little bit more mild-mannered, but I was furious when I watched this. She taped the whole thing. You can find the video. I watched the video. That's how I know. That's how I know what happened. It is part of a bizarre string of events in 1 week, which are assaults on the freedom of speech by various levels of government. The state of Texas, the state of South Dakota enacted legislation requiring all schools owned by the state from pre-K to graduate school to punish students who use words that are arguably anti-Semitic. Well, who is the government to decide what is anti-Semitic? And who is the government to evaluate the content of speech? And Brandenburg versus Ohio says even hate speech is absolutely protected. I don't know how these people that took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution can go about trashing it. Donald Trump is issued a gag order by a judge telling him he can't criticize the judge's daughter. Now, that's a head scratcher. Why would he criticize the judge's daughter? Well, you got to look beneath the surface. The judge's daughter is a fundraiser for Democratic candidates, and she is using the criminal trial being conducted before her father as a means to raise money. And Donald Trump can't comment on that? No, he can't. Well, that is an assault on the freedom of speech. All these things happened in 1 week. They got into my skin, and I decided to throw them together and put in a little primer on the freedom of speech. The whole purpose of the First Amendment, I've said this before, I'll say it again, it's not me, it's the Supreme Court, is to keep the government out of the business of speech. Period. No exceptions.
Now, Judge, one of the most concerning parts of this story of the FBI visiting this woman in Stillwater, Oklahoma, is the admission from these FBI agents that they are monitoring our social media all the time. They may have handled themselves professionally and calmly, but here's what they said. The FBI spends every day, all day long, interrogating people over their Facebook posts. That's what the agents told this Roya Abdul-Jawad.
Say again?
So the FBI, one of the more stunning admissions in this story is that the FBI said to this woman that they spend every day, all day long, interrogating people over their Facebook posts. So apparently this is more common than just this one incident.
The Chris Wray, W-R-A-Y, FBI, that's the director that Donald Trump appointed, whom he has privately and publicly lamented appointing many times, has taken the FBI into new depths beyond even where Jim Comey brought it. 1/3, take this to the bank, 1/3 of the FBI manpower, person power, and resources are devoted to, you ready for this, George Orwell? Predicting crime, not solving crime, predicting crime. And they do this in a manner which chills speech. Chilling speech is unconstitutional. Speech is chilled when people have second thoughts or pause before they speak for fear about what the government will do or say to them as a result of their speech.
From a political angle on this, Judge, the Washington Post story about this was very interesting because it mentioned that the right, meaning the political right, reconsiders. This is the subheading in the Washington Post article. It says that this video about this incident popped up in Reason. It popped up in a Fox News articles. And here's what the Washington Post says. Anti-government militants, I assuming they're referring to us, hailed her as a patriot. Edward Snowden weighed in on X saying, so the FBI is now doorstopping ordinary Americans for criticizing the White House's Gaza policy online. So this is uniting left and right, a coalition of people, kind of like when we used to produce those Tea Party segments with Ron Paul and Ralph Nader together, a sort of a Progressive Libertarian Alliance for Free Speech. It's sort of the remnants of those days.
It's like the time you guys went down to Occupy Wall Street and brought back some lefties that hated the Fed. We put them on air without telling our bosses who the hell they were.
I will never forget that, Judge. Going down to the Occupy Wall Streeters and seeing this dirty kid. He got dirt on smudged on his face, and he's screaming, "End the Fed, gold is money." And I'm like, I'm gonna put that kid on TV with the judge.
But you have to have a sense of humor because things are so dark. But Edward Snowden actually said this better than I did. This is the use of law enforcement to interrogate people who disagree publicly with the president's policies. Now, his policies happen to be reprehensible from a moral and legal standpoint. They happen to constitute genocide. They are war crimes. They are resulting in the slaughter of tens of thousands of innocents. If I've told you this story, stop me. In the middle of one of my podcasts, I got a text from a young lawyer, who's a former student of mine. He's Egyptian American, born in New Jersey, telling me that his cousin, the head of pediatrics at the Al-Shifa Hospital, was slaughtered by machine gun fire while tending to two babies. Just slaughtered by machine gun fire. This is the tip of the iceberg of what's going on there. If we can't condemn this without fear of federal agents knocking on the door, it's time to abolish the government. That's not me. That's Jefferson. When the government fails to When the government fails to preserve liberty, it is the right and the duty of the people to alter or abolish it. Where did he say that? In the Declaration of Independence is where he said it.
Judge, come on, get real. Every day is a good day to abolish government. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Napolitano joining us live. The modern Thomas Jefferson. We're glad to have him here. If you're enjoying this content, do please click like and follow the channel. It's nice to see our audience growing over on X.com, Elon Musk's platform for free speech. We've actually got more viewers over there than we do even at Rumble.com. So it's nice to see that platform building out a nice audience. So do please share us with your friends and click the repost button. It's not a retweet anymore, it's a repost. And share us on your feeds with other people who might care about these ideas of individual liberty that I'm speaking about with Judge Ayn Napolitano. Judge, one last question on that topic before we move on to something else. The Supreme Court case that's being heard right now that deals with social media, typically what happens is that the Supreme Court, even if it finds in our favor, in favor of freedom, it usually is very reserved, and it doesn't issue wide sweeping proclamations for things in order to truly advance liberty, 5, 10, 15, 20 yards. It's usually a game of inches. Any guesses as to what the Supreme Court might find in a reality-based best case scenario in regards to how the Biden administration colluded with these platforms in order to suppress free speech during the pandemic? What is the best hope we really have here?
My guess is based on a transcript of the oral argument. It's not a happy one. My guess is that the Supreme Court will throw the case out on some very narrow grounds, like the plaintiffs, who are two states, do not have standing, because apparently there is a strain in some of these justices that the government does have the right to attempt to use a carrot or a stick to influence what social media algorithms, what they push up and what they suppress, contrary to the jurisprudence that I just cited, that the whole purpose of the First Amendment is to keep the government out of the business of speech. We are talking about the Department of Homeland Security telling social media, suppress this speech, advance this speech. Here's a carrot for you, or get ready for a stick, so to speak. The Supreme Court was not nearly as outraged about that as was the trial judge, or as was the Circuit Court of Appeals panel in Houston. To me, it's a no-brainer. But the court is infected with sort of a big government, the same Sam Alito that can defend the rights of babies in the womb to be alive will also allow the government to interfere in free speech. It's a head scratcher.
Well, that's deeply concerning, Judge. I kind of had some hopes that we might see a little bit more freedom. I mean, these social platforms, to an extent, are how you and I now, this is how we ply our trade. This is how we practice free speech. And before we knew that the government was pressuring these private companies to suppress voices like yours and mine, the argument could have been made from a libertarian perspective that these are private companies. And if they choose not to do business with you or I, that's their right. We may disagree with it. We can protest against it. We can ask our fellow citizens to boycott. But at the end of the day, private companies should be able to keep their private property and run them as they please. But that's no longer the case anymore, Judge. When you see the way that the government is working hand in hand with these corporations to suppress voices like ours, you can't make the argument that they're private companies and they can do what they want anymore, can you?
You're 100% correct. They are engaged in what's called state action, a doctrine which teaches that when the private entity and the government are in a symbiotic relationship, whether voluntary or involuntary, then the constitutional restraints imposed on the government, no interference with freedom of speech, will be imposed on the private entity. The root of all of this, here I'm wearing my Murray Rothbard hat. The root of all of this is government. The root of all of this is the government getting involved. If Facebook bans me because they don't like my face or the way I spell my name or the shirts that I wear or the words that I utter, they can do that, and I'll find another place that'll host me, and the people that like what I say, and you'll do the same, will follow you wherever you go. But if they ban me because the government rewards them for doing so or threatens them if they don't do so, that is the government doing indirectly through Facebook what the Constitution expressly prohibits it from doing directly, punishing speech. If the government can run rings around the First Amendment, then the First Amendment means nothing. That's not me. That's the Supreme Court.
Judge, we've only got about 5 more minutes left before I go to my next interview, and I wanted to make sure that we get an opportunity to talk about, since we're talking about social media in our shows and how we're practicing our free speech, you've had an incredible success with your Judging Freedom podcast. You were telling me before this segment aired or began that you've had 9.5 million views of the Judging Freedom podcast in a month.
For 3 months now, yes. Yes. We are one of the rare places where high-end, sophisticated people, academics, ex-military, ex-intelligence community, come to eviscerate the president's foreign policy in Ukraine and with respect to Israel and Gaza. You will not hear any of these people or any of their words on Fox News or anywhere else, even though one of them, who's going to be on with me in an hour and a half, will probably be the next Secretary of Defense if Donald Trump is elected president. That's Colonel Douglas McGregor.
Oh, jeez, Judge. I mean,
can you imagine that? The networks ban him because he's harshly critical of sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel to drop on refugee camps, and he's harshly critical of killing allowing the war to go on in Ukraine.
Judge, you now, with your show, you get more viewers, more eyeballs than you ever did on the show that we produced together when we were together at Freedom Watch on the Fox Business Network. Your show gets more views than what they call the mainstream media. I mean, should we even call it the mainstream media anymore? I mean, call it the corporate media, the legacy media. I mean, what you're doing right now, breaking new ground, is building something that the big guys, it takes them billions of dollars to compete with you with a computer and a webcam and your network of friends and telling the truth every day. I mean, this is a revolution that's going on right now, isn't it?
It is a revolution. If you had told me 5 years ago, here's where you'll be in 5 years with numbers better than fill in the blank, any of the alphabet lettered networks, it's startling. It's a confluence of opposition to war, the media stifling the opposition, and good, decent, courageous people. Now, they're all retired, their pensions can't be touched, but good, decent, courageous people coming to the fore. Some of them are not retired. The academics are not retired. Jeffrey Sachs is not retired. There's a very interesting article by Ron Unz in yesterday's LouRockwell.com called The Transformation of Jeffrey Sachs, how a liberal Democrat has become the hero of the anti-war group and has lost so many of his former friends.
Unbelievable, Judge. Give us another sneak preview. We talked about your column that's coming out tomorrow in regards to the story of this woman who was visited by the FBI. You're going to be talking to Colonel Douglas McGregor in about an hour and a half. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you go today, friend?
A very telegenic young man named Connor Freeman at 2:00 from antiwar.com, who sort of gives us a round robin of what's happening around the world with respect to war and peace. And then the indomitable Phil Giraldi. Phil spent 40 years, PhD, University of Chicago in history, and he's an undercover CIA agent. There's a unique combination. He eviscerates the CIA. He'll be on at 3:00 today. But McGovern, of course, along with Scott Ritter and Jeff Sachs and Professor Mearsheimer are my superstars.
Congratulations, Judge, on all your success. Along with your success comes the success of our ideas, and I wish you the best, friend. And thank you very much for being generous with your time. And
Right
joining
back
us.
at you, Austin. Keep up the good work. I love these Wednesday mornings, my dear friend. Thank you for letting me play a small part in your success.
Thank you, Judge. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Decades later.
Interesting. Now, we're going to have a nice conversation with my friend Oliver Gia live from Kyoto, Japan, to talk about that in about 5 minutes. But I wanted to note the community note below this video from Al Jazeera. You see this AJ up there? That means that they are the communist Arabic propaganda rag, Al Jazeera, dedicated to the destruction of the West. And this professor that they're speaking to here is a woman by the name of Professor Naoko Wake. She is an American gender historian. Oh, that's interesting. The post is misleading the reader to think this opinion comes from some warfare international law expert from a Japanese institute. But this woman who is accusing the United States of war crimes in the attacks, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, she is obviously not an international law expert. She's a gender historian. So no surprise. There we go. So what do people in Japan think about it? Has Japan paid for their crimes from World War II? Do they think about what they've done? Do they have any kind of a sense of collective guilt at all? Is Oppenheimer a film that glosses over the atrocities of the use of the nuclear weapons? Was Hiroshima actually a military target, or was it a civilian target? Well, what's fascinating about that is that your boy AP was in Hiroshima 1 year ago today. And when I was there at that museum, I just happened to snap a picture that I can share with you right now. Let me pull it up. AP saw this sign. This was placed there by the Japanese people inside the museum for the bomb. What does this say? Hiroshima, a military city. In 1871, the first outpost of the Kyushu garrison was stationed inside the Hiroshima Castle compound. Hiroshima became one of the most important Japanese army bases. In 1888, the 5th Division was reorganized and military facilities in Hiroshima increased further. Units of the 5th Division were involved in all modern Japanese warfare, including the First Sino-Japanese War, the Boxer Rebellion, the Russo-Japanese War, dispatches to Qingdao and Siberia, and the Second Sino-Japanese War, also known as World War II. So when you see leftists or lawbertarians lie that it was a civilian target, that they were attacking civilians and it had no military uses, just remember they lie. We'll be right back to talk with a man live from Kyoto, Japan on this topic and more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Do us a favor, click that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you come back here and join us on the regs. Well, it's been 1 year since I visited Japan. I went to Tokyo, Hiroshima, I went to Osaka, and we visited probably the most beautiful city I've ever seen in the world, Kyoto, Japan, which thankfully was not destroyed during World War II. There's a little known tale about one of the men who planned the bombings who apparently got married there or just thought the city was culturally too beautiful, so they decided not to bomb it. But Hiroshima was ultimately decided as one of the two cities that would receive the full might of American power in 1945. And we're still debating the use of that bomb today. But how does Japan feel about the use of nuclear weapons? And do they think about all of the atrocities that were committed by the Imperial Japanese powers in China and Nanking, for example, Unit 731? Do things like that ring a bell? Would the average Japanese citizen even know a thing or two about it? Well, let's talk to a man that I met while I was in Kyoto. He's live in Japan joining us now. His name's Oliver Jia, and for him it's 10 o'clock at night, so we say konbanwa. Hello, how are you, Oliver? It's nice to see you again.
Yes, very nice to see you. And I'll never miss a chance to rip on Al Jazeera, no matter what time.
So can we just address that very briefly? Some gender studies professor is trying to lecture the United States on war crimes. It's just too funny for so you couldn't write this kind of like a woke story, you know?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that in my feed the other day because it really started this whole storm of controversy rumors around. First off, the film Oppenheimer was never banned in Japan. There were no plans to ban the movie, and there was no evidence whatsoever that there was any kind of a reason this movie would not be shown here. When I wrote that piece for The Spectator, that was, I believe, July of last year when the movie came out overseas, and I argued that the movie would come out here eventually. It would just be a matter of time. Now, the question is, why was it delayed? Well, really, films get delayed in Japan all the time. And like a good example is John Wick 4, which came out. I don't know if you saw that, but John Wick 4, it was shot like in Japan. There were like scenes in Tokyo and Osaka. This is a film that was shot in Japan, but we didn't get it for another like 8 or 9 months since it came out. And that has to do with scheduling. A lot of Japanese distributors don't want movies to be competing with local releases. Also, the Oscars just happened, and because Oppenheimer won big at the Oscars, a lot of distributors view that as like a good marketing tool. So I really think that the reason to delay Oppenheimer was more economical rather than political.
Okay, well, that clears that up because a lot of people in the United States believe that there was some cultural sensitivity regarding the use of the nuclear weapon and its depiction in this film Oppenheimer. So for you, it was the truth is much more boring, which it almost always is, but that's not as fun and it doesn't get you the clicks and the reposts over on social media that people need, the outrage bait. Unfortunately, that's how the sort of economy of information works these days. But talk to us about your thoughts about the movie Oppenheimer. Personally, I thought it was too long. I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought that it was a mistake for them to gloss over the debates that occurred about how, what, who, what, when, where, and why to use the bomb. If anybody wants to learn more, visiting the museum in Hiroshima is a great idea because it goes into great detail. But it struck me that the film wanted to spend more time talking about this relationship between Oppenheimer and some communist woman that he had an affair with that I felt was just a distraction from the main scene. And then it got bogged down in Senate hearings. So I found the film to be a rather uninspiring. Maybe you have a different opinion. What were your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I think I have a more positive view of the movie than you do. But an interesting thing on my second watch of this film, I actually found myself more sympathetic to Louis Strauss than Oppenheimer because if you think about it, it's during the Cold War, and if you have any ties to communists whatsoever, you are a security threat. And I think it was perfectly justified to have some suspicion on him. But I found the film to be overall a rather nuanced portrayal of all sides. I don't really think there's a definitive good guy or bad guy in this movie. The film doesn't pull any punches in depicting how wishy-washy Oppenheimer was about his own political views, about his own views of using these nuclear weapons on human civilians. But the assertion that like some people are saying that the movie like glosses over that completely, I think we do see his internal struggle over this. We see his mixed feelings. But as the title suggests, the film is ultimately about his own life and about his own personal issues and his own achievements. It basically does what it says on the tin. It's about more Oppenheimer than it is about just Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I think that if you had a scene depicting the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it would actually, I think, take you out of the movie because it's better that it's left up to your imagination, and also because there's been so many movies that already depict this from the Japanese perspective. And I think there's much better movies and much better stories that could do this from that perspective rather than the perspective Christopher Nolan was trying to achieve.
How was the movie received in Japan generally, would you say?
I would say generally positively. Now, of course, there is the debate about like should have this film depicted more of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki side? Should there have been more Japanese voices? But from the Japanese reviews that I've read and from the user reviews and the critics, most seem to have understood what the film was trying to do. And when I went to see this in my Kyoto cinema last week when it came out, it was a packed house. And then from what I've heard from my other friends who've gone to see the movie, it's been packed showings throughout Japan, and it's actually done better than Dune 2 in terms of box office. So that's a pretty big achievement for the film.
Well, that is pretty huge. For our audience members who might just be tuning in to the Wake Up America show and wondering what we're chatting about, I'm Austin Peterson and I'm speaking to Oliver Jia. He's a Kyoto based American researcher on Japanese and North Korean relations. We're talking to him about controversy surrounding the film Oppenheimer and how Japan sees its role in World War II and how the United States sees its role in dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you'd like to have your voice heard in this debate, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586 if you have a question for myself or for Oliver. He's joining us now live from Kyoto, Japan right now. Oliver, the question surrounding the use of the bombs is fraught with peril because quite frequently the phrase war crimes are trotted out in regards to the American use of the nuclear weapons in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is a massive debate that could go on for hours. People feel very strongly about it. Very few people feel neutrally about it. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. When you heard that gender studies professor saying that the United States has never acknowledged their role in committing war crimes in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how would you respond to the gender studies professor if she said something like that to you?
Yeah, well, I know you're a bit older than me, and I know you've been through the American education system, the same that I have. Well, when I went to all of my American history classes, I've always talked about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and also just the general, like, controversial moments of American history. So, the notion that we've never discussed this, that we've never thought about this deeply, is pure fiction, and I think you just have to go to your average high school U.S. history class to see that that's just not true. And not only that, we actually learned about Nanking, and we learned about some Japanese war crimes in this U.S. history class because that was done to contextualize why the U.S. got involved in World War II, and also why these debates are so controversial. Because, yes, objectively speaking, using nuclear weapons on civilians, I completely understand why that's controversial, and we're still having these debates decades later if that was the right call. but it wasn't done in a vacuum, and it wasn't done just because the US felt like it. And what a lot of people forget is that we were firebombing Tokyo and all the other major Japanese cities for months before Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And those conventional firebombs killed far more people than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But we never really hear anywhere near as much discourse about that than we do with these two nuclear bombs.
Oliver, when I arrived in Tokyo, my wife loves history as much as I do, but I kind of dragged her immediately to the Imperial War Museum to take a look at the history of conflicts that Japan has found itself embroiled in. And I was not surprised because I had already done some homework beforehand about how the War Museum handles delicately its view of itself and Japan's role in World War II. But some of the things were surprising. A mural that depicted the Bataan Death March as sort of just a happy little walk where the American soldiers were given cigarettes and, weren't being bayoneted if they fell into the trench. There are accusations by some people in the United States against the Japanese people that they, on one hand, don't educate young people in the atrocities of what happened, of the Imperial Japanese did during that conflict, but then two, also that there hasn't been a proper, I guess, mea culpa done by the Japanese people for things like the Bataan Death March or Unit 731 or the Comfort Women. Can you talk to us about that sort of that? Because I know Japan is obviously Japanese people honor is very important. And of course, to lose a war is a massive dishonor. So for them, culturally, this was a major blow to their collective ego. So it could be hard to admit to things like that. How do you feel about that, about how Japan depicts itself during that conflict and the role of the Japanese educational system in looking at that conflict specifically?
Okay, well, there's multiple layers to your question, so I'll try to get to it as much as I can. Well, first off, there's the notion of apology or the debate of apology. You often hear that Japan has never apologized for World War II. It's never acknowledged its war crimes. That's completely false. If you go on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website in Japan, there's a Q&A section dedicated specifically to history issues, and they mention Nanking, they mention Comfort Women, they mention these war crimes, and they also provide a list of every single apology a prime minister or a major Japanese official has given to the countries of Asia. So this goes back as early as 1957, where Prime Minister Kishi Nobusuke, he actually apologized to Burma and Australia for the pain and suffering that Japan caused. Now, you can make some argument that this was for pragmatic reasons because Kishi was himself involved in a lot of these, directing the war and like what happened and everything. And there's accusations that he himself was a war criminal. But at least we can just say that Japan did apologize early on. But as we move on towards history, whether you debate whether that was like, genuine or not, I think the ones from subsequent prime ministers definitely were genuine. So we have this thing called the Kono Statement in the 1990s, where Japan specifically acknowledged comfort women. They acknowledged the suffering that they had given to the people of Asia, Korea, China, and they began issuing financial compensation to these comfort women. In 1995, Prime Minister Murayama, he had a 50th anniversary apology, and in 2005, Prime Minister Koizumi, he had a 60th anniversary apology for World War II, for imperialism, for colonialism. These are explicit words. Now, the issue is when we go to these history museums, sometimes in hotels, there's like pamphlets or literature that try to like downplay Japanese war crimes. The thing with that, a lot of that is privately owned or it's done by private organizations. And because we have free speech in Japan, we have the right to publish whatever you want. Anybody can write those types of books or that type of those types of pamphlets. But when it comes to official statements,
there is still
yeah,
no, it's fine, but there is still that nationalist strain there in Japan. For example, there are people who demonstrate outside the Imperial War Museum specifically. I mean, just like we have, Nazis here in the United States that go out and wave swastikas and things like that. But would you say that these people who, they wear the Japanese officers' uniforms from World War II and swing their katanas around outside the Imperial War Museum, is that a marginal view, would you say?
I would say that they're probably well-dressed LARPers, to put it lightly. Because well, a lot of them are geeks for military history, whether it's like the weapons or it's like the outfits, and I can admit those hats are pretty stylish. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing one. But,
I'm still just a little butthurt that I wasn't able to negotiate that price for that Japanese officer's sword at the sword shop there in Kyoto while I was in town. So I'm still a little upset
I
about
remember
that one. Oliver, what about the education of the
Mm-hmm.
Japanese children? Because there were quite a few viral videos that Stephanie and I watched before we went to Japan that showed that. And listen, when you ask American young people who was the first president of the United States, or who's somebody who sits on the Supreme Court, they'll be like, "Oh, Judge Judy," right? They don't know. Okay, so
Right.
it's not as if like young people in Japan are uniquely ignorant. They're probably a lot more book smart than American kids these days. But do they teach in schools about what Japan did during the Second Sino and Japanese War? I mean, do they teach about the nuclear weapon and the consequences? Are there robust debates about Japan's role during World War II? Do they learn about Unit 731 and the horrific Holocaust level crimes that occurred there?
hmm Yeah, so when it comes to discourse about war crimes, that's been happening since the end of World War II. You can look at movies that came out, you can look at works of fiction, those dealt directly with Japanese war crimes. There's one film that I'm particularly, that I really enjoy called The Human Condition, where it's like this epic three-part trilogy where the protagonist goes from being a slave driver of Chinese in Manchuria to being a prisoner of the Soviet Union. So you see like all these different angles. So that's like the popular culture consensus. They've talked about Unit 731. There are plenty of Japanese films that show these war crimes. So in that sense, that's shown. When it comes to actual like education and textbooks, they do mention Nanking. They do mention that like the Imperial Japanese Army killed a lot of people. But the issue that I think some people have is that some textbooks don't go into further detail. They don't give you like, dozens and dozens of pages of like going over like the gory details. It's like a few paragraphs, and then we have this problem in America too of like what do you include in a curriculum where some courses will like go over slavery in America, for example, in pretty big detail. Others will talk about slavery, but maybe discuss other aspects of that time period. You basically can't put every single nuance into like one course. But what I think good education should be, like it gets students interested in this history so they can go out and find supplemental material, and that supplemental material does exist. But you have the problem in all countries of how do you engage young people with this history, because you know how kids are and you know how teenagers are. They'll like cram for like a test to remember all this stuff and then they'll forget it immediately after. So I think that's a problem that many countries face, not just Japan.
Perfect answer to that, and I completely agree. But some of the more pointed accusations of, or excuse me, maybe perhaps incriminations of Japanese culture from American populists or nationalists who have been in recent days critical of Japan will point it at Japanese culture of hentai or anime, and they will accuse Japanese culture of being degenerate and contributing to the decline of the Japanese economy and of the birth rate decline. I mean, Japan is no doubt facing a demographic crisis right now, like South Korea and many other Asian countries as well. But how do you respond to like those more pointed criticisms of Japanese culture that come from American nationalists who would say, well, this is the reason for the Japanese economic and demographic decline? Go.
Yeah, this is also a very weird question because I think we see this in so many developed first world countries. With Japan's birth rate, for example, it's actually comparable to countries like Canada, Italy, and Finland, for example. But those never really make headlines. If you put Japan in the headline, then it gets tons of views, and people have to like they're like armchair psychologists, like why aren't Japanese people having kids? But as we all know, people not having kids is a problem in many first world countries, not just Japan. And when it comes to so-called degenerate media like hentai or whatever, I mean, if you looked at American pornography out of context, if you looked at David Lynch films or weird like psycho stuff like in TV or like in movies, you would think America is a really screwed up country too if you had no other context. But again, this is the thing that I'm telling you, that Japan is a free democratic country where for the most part we have free speech, we have freedom of expression. There are censorship laws here too. That's a topic for another episode. But for the most part, people make whatever they want, and that's why it's put out into the world. And if you see that divorced of cultural context, yeah, of course you're going to think it's weird. But I think it's important that if you're an intelligent person, you do the research and you realize that things are more nuanced than you think they are.
What would you point at for in regards to cause and effect for the demographic and economic decline of Japan? Because everybody expected the Japanese to take over. We watched the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, the Michael Keaton film, where a Japanese corporation, gung ho, they come to the United States, they take over a company, and everybody was worried in the 1980s that Japan would take over, and then all of a sudden, collapse. What's happening up there? I mean, you have some of the most beautiful women in the world, the most fascinating culture. You would think that the economy would be booming and that everybody would want to have a Japanese baby because of, like you said, the love of Japanese culture. So what do you attribute the decline? Overwork, some people say.
Well, when it comes to economy, I'm not an economist and it's not my field. So, in terms of the specific reasons for why Japan's economy is failing, I would defer to them. But in terms of why people aren't having kids, again, it's because, for example, more women are entering the workforce and they see the need to focus on a career over family. And no matter what country you're in, it's very hard to balance both. And if you decide that you want to value your job and your career more than having a family, well, by the time you might decide that you want a family, it's too late. And again, as you said, with the work culture, a lot of Japanese people are overworked. They have very little time for themselves. But I will say that with that one aspect that is changing, there are a lot of young people that are fed up with this. They've seen what it did to their parents, and a lot of them are just saying that we're not going to go through these arbitrary rules. And especially because the pandemic showed you can get rid of a lot of waste for work by just working at home and getting the work done there. I think things are changing in that respect. So if improved work conditions can maybe lead to happier people, that might lead to more people having kids. But again, all first world countries have this problem where you get to a point of these trends are going in a specific direction and it's really hard to reverse them. So I think that the solution that not just Japan, but China, South Korea, and all these other countries, how do we deal with the new problems with these changing demographics rather than expecting for a boom of population that's just not going to happen?
Oliver, one last question for you, and this is more of a personal interest for myself. Stephanie and I, when we watch more videos about what's happening in Japan right now with the reopening of the country, there have been some major changes in how tourism is handled, specifically in the city where you reside, in Kyoto, Japan, in the Gion district, where you and I had a meal with Stephanie, and as we were walking towards the restaurant, a geisha walked right, just inches from me, and we had an incredible experience there. But the conversation that her and I have now is that we really went to Japan at the perfect time before all the massive crowds had returned, when the exchange rate was perfect. The Japan Rail Pass, which gave us the opportunity to travel the country, was inexpensive. Now the price has skyrocketed, and Kyoto specifically has made a change to how they handle tourists, no longer allowing tourists, people like Stephanie and I, to walk freely through the Gion district because of the bad behavior of so many international tourists. How do you feel specifically about tourists being excluded from the historic Gion district of Kyoto? Is this a good idea in your mind?
Well, this is also another issue that's really hard to control because tourism is something that all countries value to an extent, but Japan especially does. And Japan saw the effects of banning all tourism during the pandemic, and it really affected their economy negatively. So they need those tourist dollars, and a lot of these businesses in Gion and these other parts of Kyoto, they rely on the tourist dollars to stay in business. So I think that the way that the media is covering this, it's not a complete blanket ban of foreigners in this area, but I think more areas are being cordoned off. Places are having limits of how many they can admit. I think some places are probably going to close early or just stop serving food at a certain time. And those are just measures they have to take in place so that the experience is good for everyone else. But I think that also we're in a period of post-pandemic recovery where now people have, I mean, the economy is tough in all places, don't get me wrong, but people have a bit more money to spend than they did before. So that's why they're coming to Japan in these waves. So I think for the next maybe 3-4 years, we're going to have a lot of these crowds, but then it'll probably sort of siphon off or at least stay manageable. But for the time being, you're going to have to deal with the crowd. So you might want to rethink your trip to Japan, anybody who's watching.
There we go. Oliver Jha. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, or any plugs you'd like to get in before we let you go today, friend?
Yes, so you can follow me on Twitter at Oliver Jha 1014, and I run a Substack called Foreign Perspectives. And hopefully this month, I plan to post an article continuing this discussion about how Japan remembers World War II and refuting the myth that it never apologized for World War II. So I think you'll definitely want to follow that. It's foreignperspectives.net.
There you go. And you can follow him over at x.com, where around 850 people or 950 people are watching us live right now. Oliver Jha, I'll drop his handle underneath the live stream over there. Oliver, thanks for joining us so late in the evening there for our Wake Up America show in the morning here. It's good to see you again, friend, and we look forward to seeing even more from you in the future. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. What did you all think of Oliver Jha? Good stuff, huh? Don't get interviews like that every day. The Wake Up America show streams live in the mornings and in the evenings. Well, it's evening somewhere. It's like 10 or 11 o'clock in Kyoto, Japan. Did you learn something new? Did you guys like Oliver? Should I bring him back sometime? Talk a little bit more about international stuff? I mean, where are you getting international coverage? Like what's happening in Argentina and Liberty? What's happening in Japan? And what's happening in Jefferson City, Missouri? The Wake Up America show brings you the absolute best in economic freedom personal liberty. And while we are pro-America, we keep an eye on what's happening overseas. It does affect us here after all. I'm very grateful to have you all joining us here live on the show today. It's been a terrific show. I've learned a lot. I hope you have as well. And I hope that after watching the show today, you said to yourself, okay, I definitely want to make this destination listening, and I'm going to come back tomorrow morning. So if you're on Rumble, hit that follow button and the like button as well. But if you click the follow button, you'll be able to find me, AP for Liberty, again tomorrow at the same time. And it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. That's the show schedule. So please do me a favor and make sure that you follow before you leave today. If you're on X.com, almost 1,000 people joining us live. What's going on? And if you're joining us live over there, I'm just grateful to have a brand new big audience over there. So thank you very much. You guys rock. Appreciate you. Well, it's time for us to go. But before we do, real quick, don't forget to visit ap4libertyshop.com. Yes. Well, you guys wanted to see what's Oliver's X account? Here, I'll pull it up for you real quick here. You should see it up on your screen here in just a moment. Here it is. Oliver Jia, that's J-I-A. Oliver J-I-A 1014. There you can see it. I retweeted him, so if you go over to my account, AP for Liberty on X, you should be able to find Oliver Jia. Make sure you give him a follow. Kyoto-based U.S. researcher on Japan, North Korea relations. So, really smart guy. And, yeah, good buddy. We appreciate that he gave his time for us today. Help support the Wake Up America show and buy from the shop, ap4libertyshop.com. We've got a brand new product line this week. The lovely Stephanie Peterson designed these gorgeous historic spirits stained glass collections. So if you're a fan of wine or whiskey, or just a beautiful cutting board with George Washington's head on that, you can get those exclusively at ab4libertyshop.com. And here's the deal. Save $10 on the whole collection this week only. Use the code Historic Spirits. If you buy at least 4, that's only all 4 of the whiskey glasses, all 4 of the wine glasses, or what have you. You could buy any combination of 4. You could buy all 4 Thomas Jefferson ones, right? Use that code Historic Spirits and you get $10 off. Okay? Cool. Enjoy. See you guys tomorrow. Hope you enjoy the show. Things are looking brighter than ever on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Bye, guys. Wake Up America